Good day, everyone. This is Ravi Varanasi from Symphony. I'm the Senior Vice President responsible for platform security and platform engineering in our cloud collaboration solution. I have my colleague Juan here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juan Acosta. I'm a principal software engineer at Symphony. Happy to share our experience with Khan with you.
Thank you, Juan. Let's get started. So the purpose of this discussion is to explain what Symphony is, what we're doing, and how Kong plays a critical role as our API gateway solution that connects to many of our distributed cloud deployments. So let's get started. So hope you all can read the safe harbor statement, the standard statement that we all should be aware of. Going to Symphony, we are a secure collaboration company. We actually enable end-to-end encryption and security, not only within the company, but inter-company collaboration. And we are focused on finance vertical, which is a highly regulated industry. We are fully deployed in the cloud with more than 525,000 users. This is not only about messages, but we do deliver more than 1.2 billion messages. So that tells you the critical need at which we need our north-south traffic to be controlled by an API gateway. We also provide application integration. Anybody can bring their apps with proper APIs and integrate with Symphony on the client side for usage of their client applications. So API is critical and important for us. As you can see, we not just do messages or conferencing, we also have bots that actually trade in our finance community. So creating these bots, bringing third-party bots onto our environments, both on the client side and other API integration side, to make this happen, and controlling the bots, ensuring that they are rate limited, that's critical. So we'll talk about that. We raised about 460 million in various rounds up to Series E right now. It's a late stage company, well established as a unicorn in secure collaboration for the finance industry. Our platform is fully deployed in cloud. We guarantee end-to-end encryption and data sovereignty. Obviously, a regulated industry like finance requires this. We depend on a value add with our central directory. It's a central user directory that allows communities to collaborate with each other. Obviously, with buyer side and seller side coming together, the inter-firm collaboration is critical to our workflows. We have open APIs. We have compliant meetings that are end-to-end secure. So any recording that you have for a meeting can be decrypted only by the customer, because nobody else has the key. For our major customers, when they actually encrypt, that becomes a critical piece of compliance requirement. We connect multiple clients, whether it's desktop, Android, iPhone, or any other client, and even bots and agents that come in with proper and continuous compliance story. So our investors are all over the world, but mostly finance vertical. So you can see that. So now let me focus on the role of Kong in Symphony solution. As I explained earlier, we have about 135 plus clients, flavors of clients, mobile, web, desktop, agent, many other things. All of those clients with proper Symphony client sitting on them require authentication and authorization to access our cloud platform. And this is more like a social media fan out effect, where we render content to multiple clients and multiple users at the same time. We have groups like rooms created in which we can have thousands of users to which we have to render our content. So we have on-prem solutions like keys, bots, data leak prevention, malware, video. So all of these things are so important for us to work with our cloud-based platform that has our front end, back end with all the API endpoints. Plus, It's a distributed solution of shared services. We just can't deploy a bunch of VMs or containers and call it our platform. We have centralized directory. We have centralized messaging services. We have customers IDP that we have to work with for federation. We have to do certain credential-based authentication with our customers IDP. We actually use customer plugins that we have to actually work with. And cross-collab APIs are critical when you bring buyers and sellers together. All of this aside, why are we talking about this? When we have a platform like this that is idempotent, that means you can't have duplicate messages, that can do cloud scale, that can be distributed, there is a very critical requirement for a central API gateway. And this is where Kong came in to help us. With Kong's solution, we built an API gateway that controls all these incoming bots and users, rate limits them, that also does the required API connectivity to our API endpoints with proper authentication and authorization. So we actually have the authorization pieces where sometimes we play a role, sometimes the customer's IDP plays a role. In any case, what we call as an S key is exchanged, and then we created JSON Web Token, and the JWT is now verified at the API gateway level before any of these APIs are allowed inside. Plus, of course, standard north-south routing. So if you really look at the pieces here, Kong has played a central role as our API gateway that connects to our services and also helps connect between our. This is a distributed platform. Our Symphony backend platform has to connect to certain multi-tenant services, whether it is customer plugins through a streaming environment, whether it is multi-tenant services of our own, like a directory or something like that. We have to connect again through the API gateway that helps us arbitrate the north-south traffic, leave alone the fact that when we become a more and more distributed and scalable platform, we may need certain tokens for the east-west traffic in a service mesh-like environment, for which Kong has promised a few of their future solutions as well. So from Kong, we got easy plugins for rate limiting, JWT-based tokens, and we also distinguish bots from users at the API gateway level so that you can streamline and rate limit somebody trying to automatically create havoc on the network with their bot would be controlled by the API gateway from Kong's plugin in this particular case. We have heavy expectations from Kong on availability, disaster recovery, and resiliency because of the central role they play here. In terms of the benefits, feedback, and next steps that we got, like I said, it fills the required void for us in the north-south traffic API gateway requirement for access, rate limiting, authentication, and authorization operations. We depend on Kong. So what does this mean? It requires a scalable Kong solution, a Kong cluster, a zero downtime, where we can actually do the upgrades in a blue-green environment, and resilient API gateway cluster so that we never lose connectivity. So if Kong goes down, Symphony platform connectivity would become a problem. So Kong team was very responsive. They have given us some implementation guidance on the plugins. We worked together on resolving few open questions and issues, and a joint plugin development really helped us together to rate limit our bots, users, and devices. So I can see Kong will play a critical role even in future when we try to enable better federation services with identity or multi-factor authentication and even east-west traffic with a service mesh-like environment as we go more and more into breaking up of multi-tenant services and distributing the system even more. So the rollout approach with Kong API Gateway will be with these clusters in a redundant multiple deployment environment. It is part of our CI/CD pipeline. The AMI that we picked up from Kong will be part of our CI/CD. We have good visibility and API usage metrics we get out of this that can be shipped to Splunk. The integration that we have done is for authentication and authorization, but for further multi-factor authentication, we will be ready to do such integration. And as you can see, the customer's admin control of rate limiting parameters. So every customer can have their own certain rate limits that they want to apply. All of that is part of what they do on the Kong console for us. With that, let's go into a little bit more detail in the next 2 slides, and I will offer it to my colleague Juan to talk about the next slide on the end-to-end deployment.
Thank you very much, Ravi. So you heard a little bit about our requirements, about the Symphony platform. So I'm going to share a little bit about how we implemented the API gateway solution using Kong. First of all, we decided to deploy Kong on AWS. Kong is multi-cloud and can be deployed on-premise. We are, for the moment, more comfortable with AWS for this initial version of the implementation of the API gateway. The way that we deploy Kong is that a Kong API gateway cluster is deployed inside of a VPC, its own VPC. We have separated the data plane from the control plane as recommended by Kong. And both the data plane and the control plane are deployed in multiple availability zones so that we can guarantee high availability. Kong runs on EC2 for us, and those EC2 instances are launched from pre-built AMIs. So we try to follow certain architectural principles such as fully baked AMI model, immutable infrastructure, ephemeral instances, and that's how we approached the problem and deployed Kong's data plane and control plane through an auto-scaling group with EC2 instances and a launch template that launches the EC2 instances based on a pre-baked AMI. Kong also requires a database to store the configuration, and we used, based on Kong's recommendation, Aurora Postgres, which is a fully managed relational database cluster managed by AWS. And some of the plugins also require Redis. So we've also used Elasticache Redis, which is a fully managed Redis installation managed again by AWS. Now the data plane is just a reverse proxy. So it has to communicate with the rest of our platform, which is depicted in this diagram in the bottom, the Symphony Cloud deployment. And the way that the data plane has connectivity through it is through a mix of different options that AWS provides us. So for private connectivity to other VPCs where our services are running, we use the Transit Gateway. To access some of the AWS services where we host part of our platform, we use VPC endpoints. And to access certain resources that are accessible on the internet, we use a NAT gateway. So that's kind of the internals of the VPC. Of course, we had to integrate this solution with the rest of our DevOps and operation tooling. So as Ravi mentioned before, we use Splunk for log aggregation. So our data plane and control plane instances are sending logs to Splunk. And we also ship metrics to CloudWatch for monitoring, as well as for automatic auto-scaling in AWS and alerting, alarms, and other things. And then in terms of our DevOps tooling, to be able to create this infrastructure, we rely on Terraform. So Kong has provided some Terraform modules. We loosely based our Terraform modules on those provided by Kong. It's more like an inspiration, but we built our own. And then that infrastructure as code is represented or is versioned and stored in GitHub. Then we use Jenkins pipelines to execute any changes that need to be performed on those clusters, either to create a cluster, destroy a cluster, or modify a cluster. So that's a little bit about the infrastructure. Very important for us is automation. We do not, for instance, allow SSH access onto the host. We don't make modifications manually on those hosts. Everything is done through infrastructure as code. Next, in terms of the functional requirements, Ravi mentioned a little bit about it as well. One of the first requirements that we had is to build a multi-tenant API gateway. In our case, our SaaS platform serves multiple customers. Each customer can have multiple tenants. And for us to be able to build a multi-tenant API gateway, we used Kong's workspace features. So each tenant is represented as a workspace, and each workspace has its configuration, its routes, its services for routing purposes. Kong also handles the TLS communication with the client. So we also use Kong's SNI support and certificate support. And each workspace also has a collection of plugins that we use to implement the requirements of authorization, rate limiting, visibility, etc. So we use plugins such as the OpenID Connect plugin, the Request Transformer plugin, Response Transformer plugin. We've created our own custom Syslog plugin based on the open source version of the Syslog plugin. We also use the pre-functions plugin. And with Kong, we've also, in joint collaboration with their professional services, have built a variation of the advanced rate limiting plugin that meets our needs to be able to differentiate between different types of clients, like bots or premium bots and users, for instance. So this is kind of the configuration inside of a Kong cluster for us. And the principle that we follow to be able to manage that configuration is configuration as code, where that configuration is represented as code and versioned in GitHub. We've created a templating tool that generates a state file that can be read by Deck, which is another neat tool that Kong provides. So with that tool, we check out the configuration from GitHub. We transform the templates and the data files for our tenants that contain all the information about the routes and the plugins, etc. And through a Jenkins pipeline, we run Deck to apply that configuration through our control plane. So that's how we've implemented both. We create the infrastructure and we manage the configuration of our API gateway. So we've deployed multiple clusters this way. We have different environments. We have development, QA, UAT, and production environments. So that's how we provision clusters in all those environments. And we also operate in multiple regions. So we also create clusters in different regions, AWS regions. So that process ends up creating a Kong cluster with its configuration that manages a set of tenants. And here's a screenshot of the Kong manager, which shows some information of one of our live tenants that is handling live traffic right now.
Okay.
So that concludes our technical presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Juan. Now we can open up for any further questions on this topic.